Let's get back to Marc Faber. We've been talking about investment themes here today. You've been on a frontier market in Mongolia.
Yes, I mean, what has happened in the world is this: 30 years ago, emerging markets were markets like Taiwan and Singapore and South Korea and so forth. And today, these are developed economies, very modern economies. You can't talk about Singapore being an emerging economy. And so a new expression has come up: frontier markets. These are markets or economies in Central Asia, in Africa, some Latin American countries, and then in Asia like Myanmar, Cambodia, Mongolia. And I think that they offer a lot of potential. I was just in Mongolia, as I mentioned earlier on, and this is kind of typical of what has happened. I know that Mongolia is not China, but what has happened also in China. You had first in China the development on the coast, and then now the development is occurring in the rural areas and in the non-coastal areas. And so Mongolia opened up after the breakdown of the Soviet Union in 1989, but nothing happened until about 5 years ago. But since then you have very strong growth. And I tell you, Mongolia has the potential to be the Saudi Arabia of Asia, because they only have 2.5 million people, is a huge landmass and very resource rich. I mean, unbelievable. They have in the Gobi Desert copper, gold, coal, and much more will be found in future. So
Doctor?
I think that the country has a huge potential. Actually, Bernie, he should be dispatched to Mongolia and open a studio for CNBC there.
Oh, God help them.
There the price level is still relatively low, Bernie. You don't have to complain about pollution.
But there aren't any clubs there, though. What would I do?
That is the most precious resource of
opportunity.
Mongolia, the nightclubs.
The nightclubs?
Clubs?
Really? Bernie cares about those ramen noodles as well.
How do you invest in Mongolia, though, Doctor? Aren't there like 6 stocks in the market there?
A friend of mine who runs Firebird in New York, he started a partnership. They bought shares. There will be soon an approved fund for Mongolia. And in my opinion, still a very good play is actually Ivanhoe Mines. Because I've just been on the Oyu Tolgoi mine. I mean, it's an incredibly impressive, I mean, it's like the 8th wonder in the world. And I shouldn't talk too much because I'm a director of Ivanhoe and a friend of Robert Friedland. But I mean,
what about the government risk? You know, you hear about these sort of stories, and if I was going to invest in Mongolia, the number one concern I would have would be the regulation.
Listen, Ivanhoe has 3 risks. Mongolian risk, a risk of a collapse in the world's economy and all the commodity prices collapse. And we have a risk also with our relationship with Rio Tinto. So there are risks. But as it happens, every one of these risks is not huge in the sense that the Mongolian government, they want to develop the mine because they see that money will come in and they need the money for the development of the country. Rio Tinto is interested to develop the mine because obviously they want to enlarge their resource base and the supply of copper gold. And Ivanhoe wants to do it because they want to make money. So I think that the differences will all be ironed out over time. And I would imagine, and having seen the mine and having seen how expensive it is to build new mines, I tell you, if commodity prices go down, there's no new development occurring in the world because you need at least $2.50 copper price to induce people to look for copper.
Doctor, when are you going to take Karen and myself? I've been on the back of a yak in Chengdu, and Karen's been on a horse, so we're actually 1 step ahead.
Yes, I mean, I know how sporty you are.
Hey, before we let you go, can we have a theme? Can we take something away on that horse and go and invest in something? What should we do right now?
Well, I think what you should do is, there are some people that say that the Dow Jones will go down to 1,000, and recently the market has given a sell signal because the S&P is below the 200 days moving average, and leading groups like financials, healthcare, technology, energy are all below the 200 days moving average, and they make the bulk of the market capitalization. So I think what I said earlier in the year will probably have a further decline into like October, November. But I don't believe in Dow Jones below 1,000, because if the S&P drops, we're now say at 1,070. If we drop to around 950, 870, there'll be a massive renewed stimulus package, money printing like no tomorrow. And so I feel that the global economy may slow down, and I think it will slow down, particularly in the Western world, but that actually you're better off being in assets like commodities and equities than in 10 years government bonds and cash. At zero interest rates, cash is very dangerous.
Okay. Well, it's been wonderful having you around the set today. We very much
thank you very much for
time.
having me. Thank you.
Marc Faber, editor and publisher of the Gloom, Boom and Doom Report.